Film is a disease, Frank Capra said. When it infects your bloodstream, it takes over as the number one hormone. It plays Iago to your psyche. As with heroin, the antidote to film is more film.
A zombie is a fictional undead being created through the reanimation of a corpse. Shall I continue?
Yes.
Zombies are most commonly found in horror and fantasy genre works. The term comes from Haitian folklore, in which a zombie is a dead body reanimated through various methods, most commonly magic.
Hello and welcome to My Celluloid Heart. And if you have not figured it out, we're doing zombies today. I'm doing zombies, we're doing zombies, whatever. It's all about zombies. In case you've never been here, my podcast is two films brought together by one topic or theme with trivia to go with it. And there will be spoilers in this episode, so be warned. And today's episode, as you guessed it, are zombies. Zombieland from 2009 and Dawn of the Dead from 2004. So it's a fun one. And I was going to do this episode with Jason Bromley from formerly Talking Poop, but now he's with Popcorn Promises is the name of his podcast. And I went over there, and we're hanging out, me and him and the wife, and I'm telling him stories of my fucked up family and my white trashness and all kinds of stuff. And you know, they put the kids to bed, and it's just us hanging out. Me and Jason are going to do a podcast, and I'm like, yeah, we'll record. And then we're talking. Next thing I know, I'm like, dude, like, I wake up in the afternoon because I work at night. So I go to bed at like 9 in the morning. I wake up at like 5 or 5:30 in the afternoon, and I'm up. So I get over to Jason's at like 7:30 or 8, whatever time it was. And 7:30, whatever. And we start talking, and next thing I know, I'm like, dude, you have been up all day, and I just woke up, so I'm full of energy. You're probably winding down. So I was like, hey, man, if you can't do the podcast, that's fine. And he's like, yeah, I'm beat. And I'm like, okay, no problem. I said, I can do it myself. That's fine, which I'm doing, which is no problem. So it was fun. I would not trade that for anything. I loved hanging out with him and the wife. It was a good old time, and we had some good laughs. So it was very cool. And some corrections, but I don't think I have any. I usually try to make those as I go. So there are no corrections. And if there's anything I miss, or like I've always said, if you want to send me recommendations of movies you want me to talk about, just send it to mycelluloidheart@gmail.com. And you can send any comments, hate mail, all that to that as well. So now we are on to the newest movies I watched. Now here's a couple things. And I've talked about this before, but I want to get my point across to everyone. And I think some people understand it. I like talking about the movies that I watched. I enjoy, it gives me a thrill to write down whenever I've seen a new movie, or, you know, to add to this list that I'm about to read you. I read to you the newest movies that I watched at home or in the theaters. And it's very, I just love it. And I also like that if you're new to the podcast, you're going, gee, what's this guy Philip like? I wonder if he likes anything that I might like. So when I read to you some of these movies, you might go, oh, hey, I like that movie, and Philip likes that movie. Pretty cool. Okay. But if not, you also go, oh, he likes those kind of movies, or I'm going to check that movie out, which was the whole point of my podcast in the beginning. Is I talk about, you know, let's say on this episode, we're talking about Zombieland and Dawn of the Dead, and you're like, I've only seen the 2004 one, I've never seen the 78 one, and then all of a sudden you're like, watch it, and you're like, holy shit, that was really good. So, you know, anyway, things like that. That's what I'm getting at. So anyway, the newest movies, like I said, that I've seen them home or in the theater there was a fan film that I watched called Green Lantern, made by Jason Bromley, starring Jason Bromley, directed by Sterling Smith, and it's from Jason Bromley from Talking Poop, but now he's on his podcast now called Popcorn Promises. So please, everyone, check that out. There'll be a new episode out Monday. If you listen to this episode on Wednesday, his episode will be up on Monday, hopefully. So that would be awesome. And he's doing 12 Monkeys. And 12 Monkeys is a fucking badass movie. It's fucking looped around. Oh, it's like Looper. Oh, another Bruce Willis movie. Hey. Really cool with like so good. God damn. Anyway, so I watched Green Lantern. It's fun. My wife goes, "What do you watch?" I go, "That's Jason, my friend Jason. That's him." She's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Okay." I'm like, "No, it's actually pretty good." And she's like, "All right." So then that was from 2008 when he made that. Then I watched No Holds Barred from 1989. And this is a movie that I remember. I thought it had more wrestlers in it, but I guess I was thinking of the Goonies music video that has Lou Albano and, Ted DiBiase, I think, and all these people in it. So I was thinking No Holds Barred was all these old wrestlers, but all it has is Jesse Ventura in the beginning, just being an announcer with Mean Gene Okerlund, and then it's got Hulk Hogan, and that's it. So it's kind of like, it just sucked. He wasn't playing Hulk Hogan. He was playing somebody else. It was really cheesy, but fun and still in a sort of way where, like, wow, we used to watch this and, like, Hulk Hogan getting angry and busting out a limo, like the top sunroof of a limo and all this craziness. So it was just fun. So I found that was on Hulu, and I watched that there, and it was fun. Then, talking about fun movies, oh my God, this movie, it's called Dead Heat, starring Joe Piscopo and Treat Williams, and I was like, I think I've heard of this movie, and I said, and it's from 1988, I was like, I want to really check this out. So it was on Amazon Prime. I put it on. My wife, of course, got home and was like, "What are you watching?" I go, it's almost over. It's about these two cops, and they stumble upon this. They're trying to kill these bank robbers, and the bank robbers won't die. And they go to investigate where these bank robbers came from, and it turns out that they came from this place that reanimates dead corpses. Fits in with my zombie thing. I didn't even realize it. And Treat Williams, spoilers, not major because it shows it in the commercial, gets killed in this facility. His partner drags him over, Joe Piscopo, then drags Treat Williams over, puts him on the machine, and reanimates his body. So now he's got his friend back. His friend's alive. That's awesome. But his friend only lives for like a day or 3 days or something. So it's like, because then he starts to decay and fall apart. So it's like, okay. And it's a comedy, and it's just different. And they were going to make a sequel, and they never did. And kind of sucks that they didn't, because I kind of want to see where they went. But I could see how this movie did just I could see how people go, what is this? Add Vincent Price in it. So that was awesome. But what was interesting with this was that Joe and I have talked about it. My friend Joe Weedman and I have always wanted to find. We have this in our head. We know this movie line is there's a guy, he's either being shot at or something. It's him and his partner. And they have one bullet left. And he turns to his friend and he says, maybe we can get them to all stand in a line. And Joe and I are like, it sounds so familiar, but we can't place the movie. So anybody out there, if you could place the movie, send me a text, send me an email, whatever. So we're like, holy shit, like, what is that? Also, we don't know where that line came from. And now I can't think of the other one. Oh, the other one is that Chinese movie that I talked about a couple weeks ago, or Japanese movie about a guy and girl that keep cutting up themselves more and more until they finally kill each other. But anyway, so anyway, Dead Heat, that was fun. Then I said, honey, you want to watch Child's Play? She was like, yeah. So we watched the original Child's Play because last week I'd watched the new one. So we watched Child's Play from 1988, and I love this movie. This is really good. It was, when this came out, it was something special about it. It was just like, this has never been done before. This is like funny and cool and had some cool lines in it. And, you know, of course, you know, just so good. Brad Dourif is awesome. And then, so me and the wife watched that, and then she was like, oh, hey, look, I found this outfit for you for Halloween. Maybe you should be Chucky. And I said, and I thought about it. I said, I don't know. And it kind of looks cool. It's his, you know, his whole overalls and everything. And then I was like, well, wait, Andy was dressed like Chucky because he wanted to be a good guy. So he was dressed like a good guy doll. I'm like, I could be like Andy and carry around my Chucky doll. So I was like, that'd be cool. But we still haven't decided, and it's coming up to Halloween, so I don't know. She may be working, and I may do nothing. And I still have my Spider-Man outfit up in the closet, so maybe I'll put on Spider-Man. Who knows? But anyway, then I saw a movie called Nurses 3D from 2013. I forget if this was on Hulu or what. It was supposed to be like a horror movie, and it's this girl that I thought takes revenge on people that cheat on their boyfriends. I mean, cheat on their girlfriends. But then all of a sudden, it became like she was obsessed with this other nurse that worked for her, and she was like setting up the nurse to be crazy. So it was really weird, and it was done in 3D, but of course, you just see it normal. But that would have been cool if it was in 3D. They had some cool things. It was okay. Should you go out and see it? No. Did Joe Merle probably already see it? Yes. If not, is he going to see it? Yeah, probably. It was okay. Then the wife said, hey, let's watch What Lies Beneath. I said, oh my God, this is such a good movie. So we watched that. It was really good. Always good. I love Robert Zemeckis. That was like his love letter to Alfred Hitchcock. It was so good. And right about then, when that movie came out in 2000, I was right about when I was reading my Alfred Hitchcock Truffaut book. And I was so into like everything. Like I had seen all Hitchcock movies. Oh, anyway, really cool. So if you haven't seen it, What Lies Beneath is on Amazon Prime and Hulu. I think it's on Hulu still. Then I saw from 2010, I Spit on Your Grave, which the original I started to watch once and I never finished because it kind of took a while for them to even get to, you know, where she then wants to really, like, to get to the raping. Come on, get to the raping, I say. That's what I always say every movie. Get to the raping. And they never do. Because then they're like, that's The Incredibles. So I'm like, so I watched this new one. I said, honey, let's give this a try. It's like a horror movie, kind of. Let's watch it. So we watch it. They made 3 sequels, or they made 3 of these. And it was okay. And my friend Joe Merle said, don't bother with the other 2. I said, okay. The first one it had some gruesome stuff in it that was pretty cool, like some torture stuff, like revenge. I love revenge movies. And it's pretty neat. So, yeah, give it a chance. You know, have it play in the background every once in a while. Check in on it. John Wick 3, Parabellum. I had bought that. You know, my wife surprised me again. I got home. I knew that, you know, I say, honey, I want John Wick 3. I have the other 2. I want this one. And then I just never know when we're going to actually, you know, buy it. And then she's like, oh, here, your movie came in. I'm like, cool. And it comes with digital code and all that. So I saw that, and that was good. And it looks really good on the 75-inch TV. Very awesome. Then the wife said, hey, what's this movie here called Candyman? And I said, oh, you haven't seen Candyman? She said, no. I said, I've only seen it once. And it came out in 1992. And I said, let's give this a watch. And I explained to her Tony Todd, and I explained to her Virginia Madsen is Michael Madsen's sister, and all the bullshit that nobody wants to know. The whole reason why I started this podcast, because then you go, you know, Virginia Madsen's Michael Madsen's sister. And people go, who's Michael Madsen? Or they go, I don't really give a shit. I'm watching the movie. I like the movie. It's like people who go, I don't know actors. I just like watching a movie. It's like, okay. So that was good. It was really neat. She kind of started to do other things, but she does that. That's how women are. They kind of multitask. And I'm like, honey, you're missing you're missing this stuff. It's really cool. And then after that, then I have Mallrats from 1995. I got it on a free, with us, came with like free codes, digital codes for whatever movies you picked, what movie you wanted. And I picked Mallrats. So I watched that, and I hadn't seen it for a while, and it's funny. I liked it. It was, I know it didn't do well, but it still had some funny stuff in it, and it was good to check back in with the View Askew universe, being as the new movie's coming out. New movie doesn't look quite as funny, the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. And my cousin went and saw it, and he said what it is a bunch of nostalgia and a bunch of happy memories and happy things. And he said it just, it was just fun. So I'm like, okay, because all the previews I've seen do not look that funny, so I'm not sure. And but it was good. So everybody check out Mallrats again. It's always good. If you like Jay and Silent Bob, if you don't, you might still like Mallrats. It's pretty cool. I remember when I first saw Mallrats back in the day, and I was like, oh my God, that's a girl from Three's Company. Oh my God, she's topless. I can't believe it. And then later I saw her in Devil's Rejects, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Then I saw Motel Hell. Joe Merle I was like, hey, he loves horror movies. I was like, hey, I saw this movie Motel Hell. Should I check it out? Oh my God, yeah, check it out. It's from 1980. And it was fun and weird. And oh my God, there's a guy, he's wearing like overalls and this pig head and just trying to, kill people and trying to marry this girl that's way younger than him, and she loves him. And then all of a sudden she realizes like that he's a killer and a bad person, and it's just really fun. And the girl that's in it that plays the old man's sister is the girl from Porky's, the lady, the gym teacher. And so that was where I'm sitting there going, I know that girl from somewhere. And Porky's came out, I think, in either 80 or 79, and I'm like, oh yeah. So that was pretty cool. Then of course I watched Zombieland from 2009, which I'm doing the show about today, which is great. And then I saw Dawn of the Dead from 2004, which is great. I wanted to watch it with the wife because I thought she'd like it, but she was at work or something, so I watched it at home on the 75-inch and it looked awesome again. Okay, then I went to my Criterion channel and I watched a movie because my wife the other day said, we paid $100 for that Criterion channel. I hope you're watching it. I said, yeah, but in truth, I maybe hadn't watched it for a week or two. So, hang on, let me take a sip. So I said, okay. So the other night, there's a documentary called Grey Gardens. And I wanted to watch it, and it's about Jacqueline Kennedy's cousins. And it's the mother and the daughter, and they live in this place. And the daughter's like 55, and the mother's like 70. And they live in this like mansion, but it's a dilapidated mansion, and it's like in the Hamptons, like around the Hampton area. And it's really it's just like a documentary of their life and them explaining like where they came from, like how they grew up and how they became where they are. And it's just really interesting. And I heard that they're going to do a movie about like the real life story of these people. But it was from 1975, and it was really interesting. And just a cool little documentary that you're kind of like, the whole point was that people said like they were living in filth. Jacqueline Kennedy and them said, no, here, we'll pay some money to updo the house or whatever and not kick them out. And so it's kind of cool. Anyway, it's really cool. Check it out. Nobody will, but Joe Merle might. Then also on Criterion, there's this movie that I put on there that I added to my list, which was The Love Goddesses. And it's all about, through movie, it came out in 1965, but it's all about the love goddesses in Hollywood movies all the way through 1965, from silent films all the way up. And so they talk about Clara Bow, and they talk about, Ava Gardner and all these people. And it's really interesting. Like, this is what they, pre-code stuff, here's what they could get away with. After code, they couldn't. In the 60s, it got a little looser, and then they could show some stuff, and it's really good. And it's like a short little thing, but it was fun and neat. And then Joe Merle and I have been waiting for the Herschel Gordon Lewis they're gonna release his movies on Criterion Channel. And so we were like, oh my God, they're going to have those. And there's some that we haven't seen. And the first one that I saw was, anyway, I can't think of it. Blood Feast was the first movie I saw. And that was the first one that he did. And it became like a big hit. It was like 63 or 62 or something. And it was like, wow, man, that was cool. And the colors pop. I don't know how to explain it. It's just awesome. So before Criterion will put out they'll put out their little thing, like, here's the, it's a Herschel Gordon Lewis collection, and it'll be on that certain day it'll come out. But before that, they have it available if you go and search for it. So I searched for Herschel Gordon Lewis, and I found the Gore Girls, a.k.a. Blood Orgy. So it's under Gore Girls, Gore, like go-go, Gore Girls. And then when you click on it, then when the movie starts, the title was Blood Orgy. And it's from 1972, and it was about this killer that's killing these strippers, and the newspaper hires this guy who's not a cop, he's just a really good investigator, to solve these crimes, these murders. And so he goes and he's investigating, and he's just kind of a cool guy. His character's like, he's got a cane, and he's, got a mustache. It's all 70s, and it's pretty cool. And again, it's got weird stuff, like this girl gets killed and beat with a meat mallet on her butt until her butt is all like a bloody pulp. It's very weird. And then after that, part of the Herschel Gordon Lewis was 2000 Maniacs from 1964. So this was done right after Blood Feast. And I was like, oh my God, I want to see this. This one, I talk about these, this one especially, it was outside. It was like, they stumble across this town that is, the South. And so they want to celebrate their 100th centennial anniversary. And so these people that come through, they're like, hey, you're going to be part of our celebration. And it turns out that they're going to kill these people. And, and then later it turns out to be something else. But it's very cool. And the colors, I can't explain it. The colors are so vivid and so poppy and so 1964. Oh, fucking awesome. So everybody check that out wherever you can find it. Joe Merle, check it out, please, quick. Then the last movie that I saw, because you're all like, Jesus Christ, you spent a lot of time on Herschel Gordon Lewis. Anyway, was the other day. I came home yesterday, and the wife's watching Children of the Corn from 1984. Now, I remember, first of all, I didn't know it was that old. I thought it came out in 89, but I get home, and I'm like, honey, what is this? It's, I go, who's this guy? He looks familiar. I go, what are you watching? And she's like, what do you think? So I let it go. I go, is this a Stephen King? She goes, kinda, yeah. And I'm like, oh, is it this? I'm naming, it's not Cujo, and da-da-da. And then I'm like, is it Silver Bullet? And she's like, what's that? And I go, it's about werewolves. And she's like, oh, that sounds interesting. So we'll be watching that soon, because she didn't know. I said it's got one of the the other Corey Haim in it. Anyway, so then I see Linda Hamilton, and she's like, do you see who that is? I go, yeah, it's Linda Hamilton. I go, when did this come out? I go, wait. She goes, it's got the kid from The Burbs in it. And that's all she had to say. And I was like, oh, it's Children of the Corn. That's the first place that I saw that fucking kid, was Children of the Corn. And I said, then, I pointed him out in The Burbs, and then he was in Hard Bodies, and he says, fuck you, in 50 different languages, with his finger, in sign language. And then later on, he was in My Name is Earl. And I was like, hey, that's that guy. Anyway, so yeah, we watched that. It was really weird. And that one kid, I was like, I remember this kid. How old is that person? And then we look it up, and that kid was 25 at the time, the leader of the group. Not the redhead kid, but the one that was his boss. And then they end up killing that guy and making the redhead the boss. But anyway, it was really neat. I'm sorry I don't know the redhead's name. Joe Merle might be yelling at me right now. But also, before I get into this, I want to talk about, not to bring the show down, but a friend of mine's father passed away recently. And it makes you wonder. There's Joe Morrow, in case everybody's wondering, whatever. I think everybody knows, whoever listens to this. If not, Joe Morrow, check out Those Movie Guys podcast. And my dad, sometimes I get irritated with my dad, and he annoys me. And he, will say something, and I'm like, he'll ask me stuff like, have I seen that movie? And I want to go, I don't fucking know. I'm not with you every second of the day. How do I fucking know? But then we'll have these really good discussions. And it makes you think, like, don't get upset at the little things, And we're getting to Zombieland, which is, cherish the small things, And that's the thing with, it's like my mom died in 2006. And I flew there to see her. I don't want to bring the show down, but this is kind of a happy thing. So I went to they called and they said, hey, your mom has been in a car wreck. And when the phone rang, though, it was my mom. And it said mom on the phone. And I answered and I was like, hey, Mom. And I'm in the car with my friends. And it's my stepdad going, no, it's me, Jeff. And he's almost in tears. And I go, what's going on? And he starts crying. He's like, your mom was in a wreck, and I'm sorry that I couldn't stop her. And, the car flipped over, and she's in the hospital, and she's not doing good. And I said, okay. So then I called the hospital, and I said, how's she doing? And they said, because usually in a movie, of course, I love movies, so that's how I live my life, is I know things from movies. In movies, how are they doing? Oh, they're doing okay. You should come down. Okay, I'll fly right there. Zoom, zoom. And then you get there. Hey, how you doing? They pull through or whatever. Or they don't, but you have time to get there. So they said, the nurse said, there's a 50-50 chance. I can't tell you anything, but it's 50-50. And she was bleeding internally, and now she's on, we're putting blood in her and all this stuff. Said, okay. So I fly out there. And so I said, well, I got to get a flight and go right out there. And it's one of those, you got to wait for this flight. The flight wasn't going until 7 in the morning. So I had to wait like 4 hours and then finally go get the flight. And on the flight, I'm thinking things like this. And these are things where I said, gee, if my mom dies, like, what's her favorite song? I'm thinking of all these things. What do I know about my mom? And I said, what's her favorite song? And I couldn't think of her favorite song. And I started writing a thing about 30,000 miles over the United States, and I'm trying to figure out what my mom's favorite song is. And then I realized, she liked "Give Me One Reason" by Tracy Chapman, which is weird. Give me one reason to stay here. And so I was like, oh yeah. So I remember that. But then I started thinking, what's my dad's favorite song? And I really didn't know at that time. Then later I talked to my dad. I said, I know that you like Supertramp. I know all that. My mom ended up passing away, and it was a sad thing, but it was a good thing where I was in the bathroom after she died. I was at her house going to the restroom, and I look over, and she had all these angel figurines. And one of the angel figurines is one of those cheap little angels you get that has a clock in it. And the clock had stopped at 3:19, and my mom had died at 3:19. Now, this clock could have stopped fucking months ago, but it just happened to be 3:19 when I looked at the clock when she breathed her last breath, and I was like, holy shit. So I grabbed that clock, and I have it with me now. But it's very, very cool. I wanted to share that story, and what I also wanted to share was then talk to my dad. I said, Dad, what's your favorite song? He was telling me this and that. And there's other people who go, when I die, I don't give a shit what you play at my funeral because I'm not going to be there to hear it. But my dad was like, oh, well, I like When My Guitar Gently Weeps by the Beatles. I like all these Beatles songs. I like, Supertramp. I love School by Supertramp, which is an awesome song. And Santa Esmeralda's Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. I said, okay, cool. So now I know all that. When my stepdad was dying, I asked him, what's your favorite song? He said that one from The Mask at the end on the motorcycle. And I said, okay. And so I played that for myself after he passed away, just to like, hey, there, he's happy and out of pain because he was in hospice. And anyway, I'm sorry that I brought this whole thing down. What I wanted to get at was enjoy every moment with the people you're with. My wife and I today, this morning, we just went for breakfast. Had a beautiful breakfast. It was a beautiful day. We brought the 2 dogs with us, sat out on the patio. I had pumpkin pancakes, poached eggs, bacon, delicious bacon. And my wife had like a eggs Benedict and stuff. Anyway, had a good time. And it's a thing of people make fun of me that I have no stress or things roll off my back, and that, like my wife says, she goes, I could die. And all you would say is like, oh, well, there's a movie at 2:30 I got to go see. And you wouldn't care. And I said, no, I'd care. I'd go to the movie at 4:30. But I know. But also her mom died on last Tuesday. And her mom was a heroin addict before when she was growing up. And her mom would nod off and almost wreck the car. And it was a very stressful childhood and not a real good childhood for these kids, for her and her siblings. And the siblings were really upset that her mom died, which they should be. But my wife was not, because she had already disowned her at a young age. So she was like, should I feel bad that I don't? And I said, no, that's your prerogative to feel that way. You know, if you want to, later on down the road, you want to feel bad. But no, if you don't feel bad, then don't kick yourself over it. It's fine. And, but anyway, my point, sorry, I'm getting in this fucking downward thing, but, is just enjoy every single fucking moment with everybody. With a friend, you're laughing. Me, Jason Bromley, and his wife. Hey, I didn't get to do a podcast. So what? I'm doing one right now. Solo show, right? We had a hell of a time. Laughed. It was a good time. So those things where I wouldn't change that for the world. I wouldn't change the way that I was brought up. I wouldn't change my dad for the world, because he makes me laugh at the silly things that he says. He's going to be moving to Colorado. He's 70 years old, and I told him, you need to just like relax and just not work and just, so, he still tries to work a little bit to make some money, but he's got enough money now in the bank, so he's doing okay. But he enjoyed doing the podcast with me when we did the revenge episode, and he said, when are we going to, like right away, I thought he'd be like, oh my God, that was okay. But he was like, that was fun. He goes, when are we going to do another one? And I'm like, okay, well, whenever you're around and we figure out what movies. So we figured out that even though he's in Colorado, that movie Ferrari versus Ford is coming out. And my dad's a big car guy, and I like Fords, and he likes Fords. And it's Carol Shelby movie. So I'm like, hey, we'll go see that. So he's like, yeah, cool. So we're going to see that, and I'll put him on the podcast again. And he's always fun. And I think I am going to do a recording with my dad of having him tell his history of growing up and all that, so that I have that moments. Even before this all happened, me and Jason, when we were talking at his house, talked about how you're recording your voice on a podcast, and whether nobody listens, that's fine. But if you die, either his kids can be like, what did Daddy's voice sound like? And they'll remember. And, my dogs, because I'm not going to have any kids, but if my dogs are like, hey, what's Philip sound like? They can try to run it with their paws. How do I turn on a podcast? Because that's how dogs talk. So anyway, that's the thing. And I'm sorry if I brought everyone down. I didn't mean to. I wanted to get to the thing of enjoy every moment, enjoy everything, enjoy the fucking breath in your body and the fucking anything. I'm sitting here recording a podcast, drinking a beer. It's my Saturday, and I'm off 3 days, so I'm off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm having a hell of a time. So I'm sorry if that brought everybody down. I didn't mean to, but now let's get back to the show. And so the movies now, we're into those, are Zombieland from 2009. And it's the plot is a shy student trying to reach his family in Ohio, a gun-toting tough guy trying to find the last Twinkie, and a pair of sisters trying to get to an amusement park join forces to travel across a zombie-filled America. Stars Jason Eisenberg as Columbus, Woody Harrelson as Tallahassee, Emma Stone as Wichita, and Abigail Breslin as Little Rock. And it's written by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. And a little fact is, the film was intended as a first 2 hours in a series of 23 episodes and includes the zombie kill of the week. So see, that makes sense now. It's like, oh man, that would have been cool. Like, it would have just popped up on the screen, like zombie kill of the week, and it'd be like, awesome. The writers felt they should thank CBS for turning them down because, as they spoke on the audio commentary, Zombieland was the #1 film in the country, and Rhett Reese appears in the title sequence wearing a white suit jacket and shooting zombies. So he's that, like, I don't know if he's a pimp or a strip club owner, but it's pretty cool. And it's directed by Ruben Fleischer. And so the opening scenes are, like, really cool. Like, all the rules and stuff is awesome. And it's just such an original, like, when this came out, you're like, whoa, this is different. Like, okay, this is funny and different. Like, the cool, you know. And this is before, you know, Walking Dead, I think. Maybe Walking Dead just came out. But anyway. But the rule list started with about 100. And then they were pared down. And the exact number is either 32 or 33. And Beware of Bathrooms was a last-minute addition, which that one's funny. I mean, I'd probably leave the door open, but I think I'd lock the door and I'd go to one single bathroom or something. I don't know. I was going to make rules. Jason said, hey, if we're doing this show, let's make up our own rules. I said, okay. And then I got to his house. I go, I couldn't think of any. He goes, me neither. I say, okay. The title sequences are the best, like the way that, you know, they're almost done like David Fincher style, which then he says that the beginning slow motion scenes were shot with a digital phantom camera that shoots 1,000 frames per second, which, God, I wish I had that camera. It'd be cool. I'd be filming all kinds of little shit. Fleischer said he loves opening title sequences and thinks David Fincher does them best. He's very proud of the Zombieland opening. The best David Fincher title like that for me is the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is really cool, and they played the Immigrant Song, but it was Panic Room has like really cool, like the credits are up along the side of the building and they're kind of at an angle like with the building. So awesome. I know we're here to talk about Zombieland, but anyway. But yeah, this title sequence is awesome. And then Jesse Eisenberg's intro is like great and funny, like him just playing video games. And I identified to him a lot because I hadn't met my wife yet at this time quite. I think we watched it on, you know, after it came out, but I started dating my wife in 2010. And so I identify with him taking care of number 406, which is actually Amber Heard, which I was like, holy shit, that's Amber Heard. And just the thing of like, having a woman lay her head on your chest, like, is such a cool, it makes you feel like, oh, look, I'm a man, I'm holding this woman, I like this, you know, it just makes you feel like you're protecting her or doing something. You feel the love. It's just so great. And then Woody Harrelson's intro is awesome, of course, and just him picking him up, and he's like, you're a fiery little spitfuck, aren't you? And Woody Harrelson plays the banjo himself, and he studied hard at the last minute to learn and make sure he could play the song in the scene when he plays the, dueling banjos before he beats the fuck out of that guy. It's pretty cool. Emma Stone and Abigail intro is pretty cool, where they're like, she's been bitten, let me shoot her. And you're like, I don't know if you should trust them, but they're like, it's believable. And then they're like, okay, here you go. And then they got their gun, and then they steal their car, and they're like, motherfucker. And then when they finally get back together, that's another part when then they go after him, and then they see them from far away. And Woody Harrelson's like, Tallahassee's like, I'm gonna go talk to him. You wait here. Keep an eye out. Honk the horn if you hear anything. He's like, okay. So then he goes up there, and then he doesn't see anybody, and then he gets walked back, and then of course he's walking what's her name back, Abigail, and then all of a sudden what's her name's in the back, Emma Stone is in the back, and he's like, oh fuck. So now they're on this road trip and they hate each other, but then they start liking each other. Then there's that montage of her explaining Hannah Montana to Tallahassee, and that's so cool. She's like, no, when she's in the wig, she's Hannah Montana, and it's so awesome. And then when he's like, I know whose house we're going to go to, and they go to Bill Murray's house. And I like the part where Little Rock asks, who's Bill Murray? And Tallahassee says, I've never hit a kid before. And so he's ready to beat the fuck out of her because she doesn't know who Bill Murray is. And that's most of my life when I'm like, hey, you know who this? No, I don't. And Patrick Swayze was in the script as the intended celebrity cameo, but because he became ill, the offer was never made. Among the others considered were Joe Pesci, that would have been kind of cool. Mark Hamill would have been awesome. Jean-Claude Van Damme would have been kind of cool. Sylvester Stallone, and The Rock. And Matthew McConaughey was supposed to do it, but backed out at the last minute, and the writers, directors almost gave up on the cameo idea. Wernick finally went to Harrelson and asked if there was anyone in his Rolodex that might be willing to do it. The actor came up with Bill Murray. Murray, who doesn't have an email address and is notoriously difficult to reach, had to pick up his copy of the script from FedEx Kinko's. The actor liked the part, but asked if there could be more for him to do. The first version of his character was a zombie, and therefore didn't talk. Murray came up with the idea of still being alive but wearing zombie makeup, and the writers rewrote the scene. He showed up on the set 2 days later. Eisenberg said he always hated celebrity cameos because he doesn't like pop culture and stuff, and that he never understood the tone of the movie until he saw it the first time. Now he loves Murray's cameo. And that's like an awesome fucking little thing that somebody brings. This is why Bill Murray's a fucking genius. Like, you go, you want to be in this movie, and he doesn't just go, yeah, I'll walk around in zombie makeup and I'll be a zombie. He goes, how about if I put on zombie makeup because I want to play golf and I can just walk right out and whatever. And it's like, holy shit, like, that's awesome. And it's just, and speaking of my dad, let's talk to my dad. My dad, I'm going to go see Zombieland 2 tonight. And my dad had went and saw it the other day, and he called me from Colorado, and he's like, oh, have you seen this yet? And I said, no. And he goes, you know that I really love the first one. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And he's like, yeah, I really liked it. It was really funny and really cool. And then I tried to explain this part to him, and he didn't understand it because he hadn't seen it since 2009. But I said, I love when Bill Murray gets shot, and Tallahassee asks, you think you might pull through? And Bill Murray turns his head slowly to look at Columbus, who shot him, and says, no. And it's like him putting all the guilt on him. Oh, it's so funny. And then when he dies, and Emma Stone's like, starts laughing, and she's like, he gets me. Oh, it's so good. And when they decide to go to the girls at Pacific Playlands, it's a really cool scene because I like when Columbus says their pictures were in somebody's wallet once too. And he goes to get on the motorcycle to leave, and Tallahassee's thinking about it. And then he wrecks the motorcycle, and Tallahassee's like, come on, Evel Knievel. And then they get in and they go after the girls. So that was awesome. It was one of those, like, I get choked up. I'm such a little baby that I get choked up at that scene. I'm like, oh my God. And then some good kills at Playlands. And here's another fact. Emma Stone's favorite kill was, this is her quote, in that slow motion sequence at the end where I hit him 3 times with my gun. I don't like it anymore because I just heard about the repercussions afterwards. It's horrible because I apparently accidentally gave the stuntman 8 stitches. They kept saying, hit him hard because it doesn't look real. And he's like, it's okay, it's my job. And I butted him and he got sort of hurt. So that was like, it's like, oh shit. But I would say if the guy tells me, hit me, it's okay. I wouldn't feel bad. He told me to hit him and, broke his nose or whatever. And then when it says breaking the rules, rule number, breaking the rules. Number 17 is don't be a hero, and the don't falls down, and the words move over to say be a hero. You're just like, fuck yeah, fucking awesome. And Rhett Reese said he wrote the hair sweeping scene because as a virginal young man, it's something he always wanted to do. And Reese gets choked up every time he watches it. And it's such a cool, those little moments like speak to the nerd in all of us that you're like, oh my God, I was that way once when I was like, I could just have a girl to like, whatever. So good. And then they're all family at the end when they save them and they get in the car. They're getting ready to get in the car. Tallahassee's looking for Twinkies before they get in the car. Twinkie box blew up, so he can't eat a Twinkie. He's pissed and upset and sad. And I get choked up every time that I watch this movie. When Little Rock throws Tallahassee the Twinkie, it's like I was thinking of it the other day. It's like when I watch It's a Wonderful World. It's a Wonderful Life. Sorry, when I watch It's a Wonderful Life, I always get choked up at the exact same thing every time at the end when they bring all the money. And, there's two moments there that hit you. One is when they all show up there, they're all at the house. Number two is when they bring the money and he's okay. And I get choked up and I'm, tears run down my cheek. This time, whenever I see, I forget that she's going to throw him the Twinkie. And I'm like, oh, man. And then when she throws the Twinkie, it just makes me giddy and cry. I have this thing where I'm giddy and crying. Like I'm smiling, but I'm like, oh, so good. And that's how that was. Like, it hits me hard. So it's awesome. So now we're on to Dawn of the Dead from 2004. I wonder if my dad would like this movie. Plot: a nurse, a policeman, a young married couple, a salesman, and other survivors of a worldwide plague that is producing aggressive flesh-eating zombies take refuge in a mega Midwestern shopping mall. And it stars Sarah Polley as Anna, Ving Rhames as Kenneth, Jake Weber as Michael, and Mekhi Phifer as Andre. And it's written by George A. Romero from his 78 screenplay and James Gunn. And a fact is that Gunn was given solo writing credit even though he left the project early to concentrate on another film. That movie was Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed. That's the one with fucking Scrappy in it. Fuck you, Scrappy-Doo. It's directed by Zack Snyder. And after thinking about watching this movie and remembering how it ends, I realized that, the next movie that Zack Snyder is making is Island of the Dead. Like, I kept thinking, Island of the Dead, oh, he's making a zombie movie. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you go, that's where he got his start. And yeah, they land on an island. Hello. So I liken this, the precursors of the zombie, they're like, oh yeah, this guy got bit and he's being weird and we tried to check him out and his pulse is all crazy, whatever. And all these other people that just happen to get bit and just people being weird. And you're like, and that oh, it's the zombies are coming. And pretty much right into the action in the story. I remember the first time that I saw this movie and I was so into it. I'd already seen the original Dawn of the Dead and I really liked it. Then all of a sudden, it's just she goes home to her boyfriend and that little girl comes up and then she bites him and you're like, holy shit. And then all of a sudden it's on. She's being attacked. She's hiding in the bathroom. She jumps through the window, gets in the car. People are trying to get her out of the car and all this stuff. And there's this cool camera. It's a cool camera shot following the car. It's like a camera that's hooked to the back of the car. So when she turns, the camera turns. Really cool. They did that on one of those BMW movies that Guy Ritchie did. And he hooked it to the BMW and it would jump and turn corners. And the camera was just stabilized on the car. And it was facing Clive Owen. It was very cool. And that's when you get Madonna sliding all around in the back. It was really cool. I remember a long time ago I bought the BMW. They said, if you want these BMW films, just write us and we'll send you the movies. And they sent it on DVDs of all 4 films. And me and my friend Joe had it. And it was, one had Stellan Skarsgård in it. One had Clive Owen driving Madonna. One had Clive Owen driving somebody else. I forget. Anyway, the John Frankenheimer one, directed by him, was really cool. That was his last thing that he directed. It's pretty cool. And then she wrecks a car into the tree, and then the titles, and that Johnny Cash fucking song. And it's all kinds of cool. You're just like, holy shit, we're in it now. This is fucking awesome. Just like Zombieland, you're like, fuck yes, this is cool. And, fuck, just awesome. And then Then they head to the mall. She runs into all them, and they're like, hey, we're heading to the mall. It's like, okay. And a little fact that Joe Merle, again, to mention him, everybody got a drink. I'm going to drink because I had to say Joe Merle again. The name on one of the clothing stores in the mall is Galen Ross, which is also the name of the actress that played Fran in the original 1978 film. So that's awesome. Like, that's a big Galen Ross, and you're like, oh, interesting. So that's just a cool little touch. Like, I love it. And then because I'm a security supervisor, manager, whatever, I got like 60 guys under me. I said, I wrote here, fucking security guards. So it's like, these guys exist. Like, it's funny because they exist, but also, like, I'm not going to let these fucking cops take over this mall. Like, at least be a little nice. At least, but then again, I had this discussion with that guy that doesn't know movies very well, that I talked about, that works with me, that thinks he knows movies, but he can't even say, he says Ned Beatty, because he doesn't know it's Ned Beatty. And him and I were talking about, I said, at the end of the world, I said, I'm too much of a nice guy. Maybe I'd change if it was the end of the world. I'd have to be more tough and more hard. But I said, I would be the fucking idiot that would be like, hey, sir, you okay? You need something? And that guy would just shoot me and kill me and take my shoes. Like, because I have no idea. I could try, or I'd try to defend myself, and I'd be over the top with my, hey, get away. And they'd be like, dude, we were just wondering if we could have a cup of water. And I'd be like, fuck you. And so it's that kind of thing where, do you keep them all for yourself if you're the security, and you just go get the fuck out? Everybody get out of the security, get out of here. This is our mall. Or do you start letting people in? Because like, I think it was Kenneth Ving Rhames, I think, said, or it was Jake Weber, the more we let in, the more you're going to have the bad people coming in. And it's like, or maybe one of the security guards said, anyway, that's what's going to happen for sure. It's just the law of averages. And Tom Savini on the newscast, like, he's always badass, and he was in the original, like, riding on the motorcycle or in the sidecar. And when the whole mob breaks into the mall in the 78 version. And he's so cool. And I didn't know him until I was watching Maniac. And then I read about him doing special effects. And then I saw From Dusk Till Dawn. And then I was like, oh. And then I saw Dawn of the Dead. And I was like, oh, that's Tom Savini. And then you're like, oh, and here he is here. And so it's very cool. He's just cool. It's cool that they touch on those little things for horror fans to be like, there's my guy. And now here's a part that I love it as like a scriptwriter, like whatever, but the truck busting through and heading right at the mall is a pretty neat surprise. Like, they're in the middle of talking, and all of a sudden, like, here comes a truck, like, busting through the sign and like coming into the parking lot. And there's a woman driving it. You don't know that until later, but I love that there's a woman driving the truck, and it's a cool thing to add in there. I love when she's like, yeah, I saw these guys, so I stopped and picked them up. And Mike compliments her on that. Like, that was, you did good. And that's, that's the kind of people you want there. You want her. Like, she's a good person. And one of the most gruesome zombies, the bloated woman that they wheel in on the wheelbarrow, the bloated woman killed with a fireplace poker was actually played by a man. So I don't know if any of you knew that. So that was interesting. Fort Pastor. And Kenneth's brother is there, Ving Rhames' brother. And that in the movie, of course, it's always those kind of scenes in a movie. It's, I got to go save my brother and my wife, my sister, my daughter, my son. And he said, and they said, no, like Fort Pastor, what's his name from Modern Family was like, Fort Pastor's like dead. Like, there's nobody there. Like, it's gone. Like, it's dust. Like, eh. And they're like, dude, like, this is, kind of happened on Zombieland too, where they're like, Ohio. No, Ohio's fucking, there's nobody in Ohio. Fuck that. And then he kind of hits him with the shotgun, like, with the gun, and it's like, he's from Ohio. And they're like, oh, shit. And that's what happened here, where they're like, no, it's done. And Kenneth's like, no, I'm going no matter what. And my thing is that you know that if that was you, like I would, if my wife, I don't have confirmation that my wife died in a zombie attack. I'm going to go because I got to see it for myself that she's nowhere to be found. I can't just leave and go, okay, I guess they said, Ohio was taken or Fort Pastor was taken. I guess I'll just go with these guys. And then come to find out like years later that, Kenneth's brother's like, dude, I couldn't find you, but 20 years later now I found you. Why the fuck didn't you come and get me? So I get that. But, so it is cool. It is always in a movie, but they always go, no, dude, like, don't go. Like, you're fucking it up. Like, don't go. But it's always like, no, I gotta go. But the best scene in this movie that I love, and again, I got choked up, is when Ving Rhames, when the guy at the gun store asked, like, how is, what now? What about Fort Pastor? And Ving Rhames stops for a second and grabs that sign, and he writes something on the sign, and then he holds it up, and it says, all gone, or no hope, whatever it says. And I just love, it's to Andy, to show Andy, and his acceptance that Fort Pastor is gone, and it's just very sweet and powerful moment, because he's ready, he's like, fuck this, I'm going to go get my brother. And then he gets up on the roof, and when that guy's like, what do you think? Then he's like, I got to be true to myself and to this guy and tell him that it is gone. And that was just made me like choke up again. And like, I know I'm a big baby. And then you get Matt Frewer. So everybody comes out of the truck. Matt Frewer, who plays Frank, is one of the people in the truck. And in case you didn't know, he's the same actor that played Max Headroom. I fucking loved Max Headroom so much. I wanted to be Max Headroom. I wanted to have a TV in my room that would just have Max Headroom talking to me all the time. And then Max Headroom had a talk show for a little bit. And I remember I was like, man, I couldn't get it because it was on Cinemax or Showtime or one of those. And I was like, damn it. But then, Max Headroom kind of went away. And then they had the TV show, of course, Max Headroom. And that was cool. And it had Matt Frewer in it, but then also it had Max Headroom in it. So Matt Frewer was playing the action hero guy. And Max Headroom was the computer that would talk to him. And it was very cool. And I just love, you said the P word. It's so cool. Then Mike heads to kill Frank, and which is Matt Frewer, because he has been bitten. And that's something cool where, you just gotta, like, we don't want to be bitten, so we have to kill you. You've been bitten, we're sorry, we gotta kill you. And she's just like, fine then, go ahead. Like, go ahead, you want to kill him, go ahead. And Matt Frewer's kind of like, what the fuck? And the daughter's like, what? And then finally they realize, like, let's wait till he turns, and then we'll kill him. And that's such a sweet moment. The daughter's like hiding and covering her ears, and then you hear the gunshot. And so good. And then the pregnant woman has been bitten, but her boyfriend won't tell her that she's going to change. Like, he's just like, no, you'll be okay. But she looks like really bad, and he's got her strapped to the bed because he knows that she's going to attack. And I love the transition of, like I said, from killing Frank, and then that music kicks in with Richard Cheese and the Lounge Against the Machine. Like, it's very cool. I love their stuff. Like, they're singing Down with the Sickness, but it's like a lounge version. And they're just shooting, like, killing the guys, killing all the zombies, and it's so good. And then when they are going to check on the generators, and Ving Rhames shows up, and Mike asks, you coming with us? Ving says, no, you're coming with me. I've done this before. Fucking badass. Like, some scene, if you were trying to direct something, you maybe couldn't pull something off like that. Like, you have to do it a certain way, and that just comes off, like, awesome. Like, it's like, that's awesome. And everybody's like, okay. And then when the older lady goes to bring candles to the guy and his girlfriend, because the generators are out, and they shoot each other because he is protective of his family. And right before she walks in, though, there's this really cool fucking shot. God damn, Zack Snyder does these really cool, like, extreme close-ups of, like, little things. And it's right before she walks in where it's a shot of her stepping on a cigarette to put it out, and is extreme close-up, and it's way cool in slow motion and way, so cool. And then she walks in, and then they kill each other. And then Anna kills a newborn because it's a zombie. And you're like, ooh, that's dark. Like, in a way, you're like, but when you see the baby, it's got a zombie face. Like, it's ready to kill. And so it's like, okay, and she just kills it. But it's still kind of like, that was a baby. So that's crazy. And I love the security guard. I love this part. This is one of my favorites also. I love when the security guard guy says sarcastically, explaining the plan, like, oh, so you're gonna fortify one of the buses, both of the buses, and then you're gonna drive down all the way here, and you're gonna fight all of 1,000 zombies, and you're gonna get to the docks, and then you're gonna get on the boat, and you're gonna drive the boat to an island that will have nobody on it, and you'll live there forever in peace. And they're all like, yeah. And that's a plan. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, this is just awesome the way that he explains this big plan where, for one, he's explaining to it for either the trailer or whatever you want to put that on. But also it's a cool little fun moment where it's like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And then he's like, okay. And then A-Team style montage of them fortifying the buses, which always made me, it's kind of funny. Like, my friend, I remember, my other friend, Joe, he was like, yeah, they fucking A-Teamed the bus. And I was like, yeah, but it was cool. And he was like, okay. And then when they send the dog with the food and the walkie-talkie, but a couple zombies get in, you're like, fuck, no, fuck. Because you love Andy, because Andy and him are playing chess. Andy and him have been talking. Like, Andy seems really nice. And then all of a sudden, though, he goes to close the thing, and Ving Rhames is like, oh, shit. And they're like, what? And then he goes, 2 of them got in. And then he's trying to call him on the radio. And then he's like, he goes, hey, man, yeah, I'm right here. No, they bite really hard. And he didn't know that, like, he can turn. And he was just like, man, those things bite. And you're like, oh, shit. And you see Ving Rhames, like, shoulders relax, like, fuck. And they all know that he's been attacked. And Nicole's pissed because they sent her dog to sneak in through the zombies to take the walkie-talkie and the food. And it's so good when Nicole gets over to save the dog and Andy. So she, like, just fucking drives over there. And they're like, where'd the fuck Nicole go? And then they're like, fuck. And then she goes in there. And then you hear her on the radio like, yeah, no, I found Andy. And they're like, run, get out of there. And you're like, oh, shit. And you hear this commotion. And then they go, hide somewhere. And then they don't know if she's alive or not. But they got to go check on her before they leave. So then they get over there. They secretly go over there to try to get in there to find her. And they see that Andy's dead. And then they're looking for her. And then there she is, like, hiding in the little thing, and she's fine. And then they get her out, and then the whole chase back to the mall is, like, great. And then they get into the mall, and then the thing that I fucking love is another thing where it's a thing in a script, but it's also a thing in real life. Like, sometimes I might not think, one time I was going to work, I had to wear a suit for this event. So I'm wearing a suit. So I was wearing the suit when I left, but after the suit event, I had to dress in my regular polo shirt and my pants to be a security guard. So I put my tennis shoes on the roof of the car. I get in my suit. I close the door. I drive away. And then later, when I go to change out of my suit into my regular clothes with my tennis shoes, I can't find my tennis shoes. And I'm like, fuck. And I remember that I put them on the roof and I lost them. And so I had to wear my dress shoes in regular pants and polo shirt. Anyway, so my thing is coming to this. Her with the boat keys. Would you have thought of grabbing those keys? Like, I think I would be so focused on killing all these zombies and getting out of there that you might not think about the Modern Family guy had the keys, And I think that I may have just almost been all the way to the docks and then realized, oh, shit, wait. We got to turn around. Like, that would have sucked because everybody would have, what the fuck? But then I would have been like, you didn't think about it either. And then it's great because by the end, you were rooting for CJ, the security guard guy. And, like, you were so pissed at him all the time. And then when he's kind of reading the book about, like, communication is the key to a good relationship and all that. And then you're sad when he dies because now you've gone through this transformation of him, and you're like, I like this guy, and he's kind of a hero, and then all of a sudden he dies, and you're like, fuck. And then the great little twist that the main guy has been bitten. Like, they're throwing all the lines back to the boat, they're getting ready to get on the boat, and all of a sudden Jake Weber's like, no, I can't go. And they're like, why not? And he shows his arm where he's been bit. And then she's like, no. And he's like, yeah, I can't, sorry. And they just, and then you hear the gunshot and he kills himself. And it's like, wow. And then they're on the boat for a while. And during the end credits, you get to see the video from the video camera. And they arrive at the island. And there are a lot of zombies there. And that was cool because it's showing them like they're out of water. And they finally find land and they get excited. And then they pull up there. And before they can even totally get off the boat to even get into the island a little bit, all of a sudden, all these zombies start running out onto the dock. And you're like, oh, shit. And then the movie ends. And you're like, fuck. And so, it's just so good. And so good. So those are the movies, everybody. I'm sorry if I rushed through them. I'm sorry if in the middle of all that, you were all depressed. I didn't mean to depress anybody. I meant it to be a hopeful thing, to love life and love the one you're with. Love the one you're with. So anyway, I'm sorry if I'm goofy, and I'm sorry if whatever. Anyway, so that's my show. Next time on the show, I don't know what it's going to be, but it'll be something fun. And all that. And everybody rate and review me. Look me up on Facebook under My Celluloid Heart Podcast. And I'm on iTunes and all the places where you get podcasts, which because you're like, duh, I'm fucking listening to you right now, asshole. All right, calm down. Shit, Jesus Christ, guys. All right, thank you. Have a great day, and love the one you're with, and enjoy the small things.